It is time to look closely at the assistant coaches. This is a critical detail that completely gets left out of conversations regarding organizational accountability. When a head coach is caught on camera time and again mistreating the team's franchise cornerstone right on the sideline, the surrounding assistants bear a level of organizational responsibility as well. Briann January's heated moments with Clark, including the physical grab caught on video and the ongoing sideline tension, reveal a problem that goes far deeper than just the head coach. They expose a toxic coaching environment that has been permitted to grow without a single public correction from the team's executives. This destructive culture is fundamentally a front office failure, not just a coaching issue. The questions surrounding Amber Cox, Kelly Krauskopf, and the ownership group are now incredibly urgent given the events we have watched unfold all season. From the initial decision to hire Stephanie White to the hostile environment on the bench, the league reporting violations, and even the bizarre player rotations and developmental choices, every single problem points right back to poor hiring decisions and a total lack of oversight by leadership and ownership. In the end, a coaching staff simply mirrors the culture of the franchise, and that responsibility rests squarely on the executives who put this staff in place and kept them around despite a mountain of warning signs. She has completely checked out on Stephanie White. Just look at her on the bench. This player looks totally defeated. Congratulations, Stephanie White. You have officially broken Caitlin Clark's spirit. She is done. Welcome back to the channel. Make sure to hit that like button, leave a comment, subscribe, share this video, and turn on notifications to support our work. I would truly appreciate it. Seriously, this entire season is ruined. But let me clarify one thing. I am backing Caitlin Clark 100%. To be completely clear, pointing out Clark sitting with her head down on the bench is not an official psychological evaluation. Body language can certainly be difficult to interpret, and we should never take a brief video clip as absolute proof of someone's mental state. However, what this footage undeniably reveals is a massive shift away from the fierce, competitive energy that Caitlin showed during the early part of the season. The dramatic difference between her posture when things were going well versus how she looks in this specific clip is impossible to overlook and deeply concerning. It carries weight. What it actually means is for Caitlin to explain herself if she chooses to, but the stark contrast is as clear as day. This entire mess stems from Stephanie White losing her composure and sending her to the bench. Take a close look at this exchange between Caitlin Clark and Aliyah Boston. They are whispering to one another immediately after the coach lost her temper. You can see it clear as day. It looks exactly like Caitlin is saying, "We have to get this idiot out of here. We have to get this idiot out. Aliyah, there is no way I am signing my next contract here." That bench conversation between Clark and Boston, kept private and away from the cameras right after that heavy sideline drama, is real, but we cannot know the exact words they exchanged. We should not try to guess the private thoughts shared between teammates. However, the footage does prove that the team's two cornerstone stars urgently needed a quiet moment to communicate during a highly stressful, chaotic game. The fact that this conversation had to happen right then is a major warning sign by itself. What they discussed is their own business, but what remains completely public and open to criticism is the terrible tactical strategy that threw this game away. Furthermore, a fresh report from Jason Whitlock sheds new light on the coaching rotations, and we need to break it down right now. Stephanie White handled her player substitutions as if her roster was the one grinding through 3 games in 4 nights, except it was Portland facing that brutal schedule. Stephanie White subbed in 11 different players in the opening quarter alone. Fire her immediately. Get rid of her. There is absolutely no justification for utilizing 11 players in a single quarter. She constantly feels the need to look like the smartest person in the room. To me, that represents the most dangerous type of coach. I never claim to know everything, but in this dynamic, I am definitely the one speaking common sense. Whitlock highlighted a crucial element that the standard box score completely missed. The Portland Fire were the team dealing with an exhausting schedule. The Fever were completely fresh. The massive energy gap between the two squads on Saturday should have provided a massive advantage. Portland's roster was completely drained, carrying a physical burden that sports science proves will compromise performance, particularly in the second half when athletes completely run out of gas. With that context, White's decision to put 11 players on the floor in the very first quarter looks even worse when you realize her squad should have held the physical upper hand. When your opponent is playing their third game in 4 nights and you are fully rested, the intelligent strategy is to punish them by keeping your premier lineups on the court for extended stretches. This forces exhausted legs to guard a steady, unrelenting system, breaking the opponent down through offensive consistency rather than endless substitutions. Deploying 11 players in a single quarter achieves the exact opposite result. It provides a fatigued opponent with a constant stream of different matchups, varying lineups, and fresh defensive looks to figure out. It removes the mental and physical strain from exhausted players, never allowing your own offense to establish the rhythm required to truly capitalize on their tiredness. This coaching error, running a chaotic, heavy substitution pattern against an opponent that should have been broken down by relentless pressure from your best unit, is the true tactical breakdown hiding behind the poor substitution timing uncovered by Whitlock. Benching both Clark and Boston at the 6:30 mark did far more than just disrupt their flow. It highlights a deeply broken rotation system that on Saturday night was completely backward, considering how worn out the opposing team already was. The statistics gathered by Chloe Peterson reveal the harsh reality of this substitution. Benching Aliyah Boston and Caitlin Clark at the 6:30 mark of the first quarter triggered a 13-2 run for Portland. Caitlin Clark had already recorded 2 points, 3 assists, and a rebound in just 2.5 minutes of action before being subbed out. Indiana held an 8-4 advantage. Then, Portland went on a 13-2 surge. By the time Caitlin checked back into the game, they trailed 17-10. From that moment forward, the game went into a complete downward spiral. The exact second Caitlin Clark went to the bench, the entire momentum shifted. The timeline confirms it. Indiana was sitting on an 8-2 lead. Clark had generated 2 points, 3 assists, and a rebound in a mere 2.5 minutes. Portland was reeling and forced to take a timeout. Then they subbed out Clark and Boston at 6:30, triggering Portland's 13-2 scoring run. That led to a 17-10 deficit when Clark stepped back onto the floor, an 11-point turnaround created entirely by the coaching staff's bizarre substitution patterns. They did this against a team playing their third game in 4 nights, an opponent that should have been completely out of breath at that point. Coach White calling this a standard rotation during her press conference is completely indefensible on its own. It becomes even worse when you consider the fatigue element. Whitlock noted that coaches sometimes defend these aggressive substitution patterns by pointing to load management to protect player endurance over a long season. But turning to load management when your opponent is far more exhausted than you completely throws away the competitive edge you should be fiercely exploiting. You do not rest your franchise players when the schedule has already done the heavy work of wearing down your opponent. You apply relentless pressure. And that is precisely what the Caitlin Clark show was. The Clark show, baby. And they ruined it. The Indiana Fever were on their way to becoming America's team. Absolute must-watch television. Without a doubt, they completely ruined it. It is over, guys. Just look at this. These 3 individuals have completely destroyed the most thrilling basketball team we have ever had the privilege to watch. Amber Cox, Kelly Krauskopf, and Stephanie White. They completely ruined this project. It is over. The pattern is undeniable based on the clipboard footage and those intense sideline moments involving both White and January. The media violations, the contradictory statements in the post-game press conferences, and the rotation decisions that instantly backfire game after game have created a massive track record. At this stage, every new game simply validates the existing narrative rather than opening a fresh chapter. The direction of the franchise is crystal clear. It is well documented, clearly trending downward, and damaging their ability to compete. We have to talk about the assistant coaches because they have largely avoided blame in this entire mess. When a head coach is repeatedly filmed acting out against their star player, the assistant coaches in that environment share a piece of that institutional responsibility. January's tense exchanges with Clark, the physical grabbing captured on tape, and the sideline shouting matches do not fall on the head coach alone. They point to a toxic coaching culture that was permitted to fester without any public pushback from management. That toxic environment represents a front office failure, not just a coaching dilemma. This blame rests squarely on Cox, Krauskopf, and the ownership group above them, and their track record makes the situation incredibly urgent. The poor hiring choices, the hostile coaching environment, the media violations, the terrible rotation choices, and the broken player development philosophy all flowed directly from the bad decisions and lack of oversight at the management and ownership level. The coaching staff simply mirrors the franchise's true culture. And that culture rests entirely on the leaders who hired this staff and kept them around despite a mountain of evidence proving they are failing. Caitlin Clark should be planning her exit. I believe she deserves a much better environment. Kane, do your job. Where the hell are you? Where are you? Where are you? Are you going to step in, or will you just sit there and act like you do not see this total disaster? Do you not see what is happening right now? Look at how they treat the brightest star in the entire sport. We watch every other franchise. We see the Dallas Wings commit to Paige Bueckers and lift her up. We watch other organizations shield their superstars, which stands in sharp contrast to Clark's current situation. Her representative, Kane, now has a fully documented paper trail of this organization's choices. The leverage regarding Clark's contract situation has been glaringly obvious ever since her position on an extension became public knowledge. She still has not signed long-term. The franchise continues to build the exact paper trail we have been tracking. These two realities are deeply connected, and professional sports agents understand exactly how to use them for maximum leverage. Compare this to the way other organizations handle their young, generational talent. Dallas supporting Paige Bueckers is the most relevant comparison, serving not as emotional drama but as a professional baseline. Franchises creating winning cultures around young superstars are making very specific, intentional front office decisions. They build systems tailored around their superstars' unique strengths. Coaching communication must build trust, not tear it down, while public comments should elevate the star rather than diminish her impact. Those specific choices foster a strong player-franchise relationship. The record of the Indiana Fever's 2026 season demonstrates something else entirely. Thursday's game against the Atlanta Dream represents the next data point. How ownership reacts to this growing pile of evidence, whether it happens before, during, or after Thursday, will be the most revealing moment of the entire season. Regardless of who comes out on top, the evidence is already overwhelming. The team's ownership group has all the information they need. Whether and when they will actually pull the trigger on a change is the only question left that the evidence cannot answer ahead of time. This is Clark Heat. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to get complete coverage of ownership's response and the upcoming Atlanta game. Leave your detailed analytical thoughts in the comments below. Does the Whitlock fatigue data, with Portland playing their third game in 4 nights against a rested Indiana roster, make White's 11-player opening quarter rotation and the early benching of Clark and Boston even harder to defend? And does the ownership group keeping this coaching staff around after Saturday's disastrous performance represent a decision that directly impacts Clark's future contract extension? Every smart take in the comments section matters. We will see you as soon as the team responds.